Imagine if the secret to sharper cheekbones, a snatched or chiseled jaw, killer sleep, and effortless breathing was hiding in your mouth. Yes, I'm talking about your tongue. What if I told you that how this muscle sits could literally sculpt your face and unblock your airways? Today, we're cracking the code on tongue posture. This is a game changer for both your looks, the way your face and the muscles of your jaw function, and also your breathing in your lungs. Stick around because we are going to discuss 3 very simple exercises that will take no more than 15 minutes a day so that you can turn your tongue into a force of physiology in your body. Welcome to the Becoming Superhuman podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nirvani Umadat. I'm a dentist, researcher, entrepreneur, and through this podcast, I show you how to tap into the innate intelligence within you and elevate your mind, body, and soul so that you can become superhuman. Now let's sink our teeth into this topic. Your tongue is not meant for just tasting your favorite foods. It is a muscle powerhouse in your mouth. And research has been done to show that when your tongue slumps down, it has a lot of laxity, doesn't have good muscle tone, it actually falls into the back of your mouth and it can constrict your airway. This causes an increase in snoring. It can lead to obstructed breathing and sleep apnea, and it puts you at risk for poor breathing overall and less oxygen exchange. That's right. Your lazy tongue could actually have an effect on your breathing, and through this leave you feeling foggy, tired, unclear, but there are even bigger consequences. Many studies over decades have shown that kids with tongues that fall to the floor of their mouth, so once again have poor muscle tone, actually grow narrower jaws, they grow longer faces, and because their jaws are not growing nice and wide and able to accommodate all of their teeth, they end up with crooked teeth. So think less chiseled jaw and more crowded. Why? This is because your tongue's position is actually supposed to be pushed up against the top of your mouth or your palate. This acts like a natural scaffold or brace for the overall structure of your face, and it actually leads to a widening of your upper jaw, which then translates to a followed growth or followed widening of your lower jaw. When you lose this muscle tone and the tongue becomes soft or has low tonality and really just drops down into your mouth rather than sitting up high against the palate, your face actually starts to change the way it grows. It grows downward instead of outward, and you end up with a narrower, flatter profile. There is now an entire branch within orthodontics called forwardontics, and this has been popularized by Dr. Sandra Kahn. And this branch of orthodontics aims to properly position your tongue, enhance tongue posture, and ultimately change the way your jaw bones grow so that you not only have more room for all of the teeth that you're supposed to have in your mouth, but this actually affects the way you look because your jaw development is a huge part of facial development and facial symmetry, and also affects your airway, leading to a clearer, more well-developed, less constricted airway and overall better breathing. So with poor tongue posture, you get poor jaw development, you develop asymmetry in the mouth and in the face. You actually start to develop a hollowing or a flatness to the midface, so less well-developed cheeks, and the area just under the eyes becomes underdeveloped. You have improper positioning of the tongue within the mouth. So you have low tone and this weakened tongue that's dropping into the floor of the mouth. You develop improper cheek development and cheek position. You have improper lip position. And overall, by objective standards of beauty, like the golden ratio, you develop a less attractive face. So why is it important to have your tongue up? You're breathing more easily. You have a sharper, more well-balanced look to your face because you have proper bone development and proper structural development of the face. And you lose this narrowing or constricting that happens to people who do not have good muscle tone in their tongue. So if this is news to you and you've never heard of the idea that your tongue and tongue strength and position all lead to things like overall facial development and your ability to breathe well, how would you fix something like that when it's already developed or is developing? Before we dive into the actual exercises that will help with this, let's just reiterate that tongue posture and tongue strength is not just some fad in the health and wellness space. It is based on scientific measurements, scientific analysis, and really observing what happens in people over time when they lose the strength of their tongues and you don't have this very, very strong, powerful muscle in your face directing overall development of the jaws. There have been sleep medicine studies that have linked sleep apnea and obstructed breathing to stunted facial development and poor muscle tone in the tongue. When your tongue is up high, sitting against your palate, it becomes a director for all of the other craniofacial movements that need to happen for a well-balanced face. These are things like the widening of your palate, causing your upper and lower jaws to grow more fully and wider, creating more room for all of the teeth in your mouth, including wisdom teeth. This supports muscle development and muscle placement over the bones. And ultimately, you have a more symmetrical face shape and the airway does not become constricted. You have enough room to breathe well and you are properly exchanging oxygen. And ultimately, when it comes to things like sleep, you have a better sleep and wake up feeling more well rested. The mainstream narrative is that genetics is the primary driver dictating your facial appearance. And this is misguided information because there are no genes for crooked teeth. There is no gene for jaw underdevelopment. There's no gene for airway constriction and poor breathing. These are all the result of behavioral and functional issues that compound over time to affect the way your head and neck and airway develop. So now we're going to dive into 3 exercises to help you take back control of your tongue, help your face shape develop, and help you to overall be able to breathe better. So we are going to use techniques that have been developed through myofunctional therapy. And these are techniques that have been used for many, many years over long periods of time. And there are different branches that have come off of orthodontics and myofunctional therapy that focus specifically on jaw repositioning. And that is where these techniques have been pulled from. So the first technique we're going to talk about is the tongue to palate hold. This should be your new default setting for your tongue. So the way this works is you're going to sit up straight with your mouth closed. Your lips are in a relaxed position, so no pursing or tension of the lips. And you're going to place the tip of your tongue right on the bumpy area of your palate, right behind your front teeth. So those are called the rugae of your palate. But once you've found that bumpy area, you know that you're in the right spot. So now you're going to flatten the whole tongue up against your palate or up against the roof of your mouth. You're going to try and almost hug the roof of your mouth with your tongue. You're going to hold this for 1 to 2 minutes and all the while focus on breathing through your nose. So you're going to do this exercise starting at 1 minute, 2 minutes if you can. And ultimately, your goal is to work up to 5 minutes a day, 3 times a day. So a total of 15 minutes of this tongue to palate hold or tongue to palate hug. This upward pressure of your tongue against your palate is going to help to strengthen the tongue itself, but also your tongue is now acting as a brace against your maxilla or your upper jaw. And this is going to help in strengthening the tongue up against that palatal bone and creating a widening or a more horizontally positioned outgrowth. And this has been found in orthodontic literature over many years, but it's basically a way to redirect bony growth and redirect bone positioning in the jaw. And then the direction or the outgrowth of your upper jaw guides the directional growth of the lower jaw. The second exercise that you're going to try and enlist in your new tongue strengthening program are tongue push-ups. The way these work is your tongue is going to find itself in the same place. So you're going to have your mouth closed, tip of your tongue is going to rest against the rugae or the ridges on the palate just behind your upper front teeth. Now you're going to push your tongue hard against your palate, almost like you're pressing or bench pressing the roof of your mouth. And you're going to hold this for 5 seconds. So just push up and hold for 5 seconds. Then you're going to relax your tongue for another 5 seconds. Now, it's important to not drop the tongue back down to the floor of your mouth. The tongue should still be positioned near the top of your mouth, but just relax that pressing sensation so that it's more relaxed and it's more of a natural position rather than over pushing against your palate or just letting it drop to the floor of your mouth. You're going to do this 10 to 15 times in a session. So press up, hold for 5, relax slightly, and hold that relaxed state for 5 seconds. That's 1 rep. You're going to do 10 to 15 reps of this exercise and try and do this 3 times a day. So 10 to 15 reps 3 times a day of these tongue push-ups to help strengthen, once again, the tongue muscle. And you really want to prevent that dropping or that flopping down of your tongue, because what this exercise ultimately will do in strengthening the tongue is it will also train that tongue muscle to not just drop down and back into the floor of your mouth. And this helps with breathing during sleep, because for many people that don't have a strong tongue, that's what tends to happen. And this leads to obstructed breathing during sleep and causes things like snoring. It causes things like obstructed sleep breathing. And ultimately, for many people, that leads to apnea. So we want to avoid all of that. We want to be breathing well. And this exercise will help that strengthening or guiding that repositioning of your tongue so that it's no longer default setting is to drop down into the floor of your mouth because it's just really low tone in that position. And when you're laying back trying to sleep, that low tonality doesn't serve you well because it just allows the tongue to fall into your airway, blocking breathing. Now, exercise 3 is the chew and swallow technique. So the way this works is this is going to make you a very intentional eater. So you're going to grab some water or a very small snack like a grape or a blueberry. If you're using food, you're going to chew it up with your mouth closed, and you're going to have the tip of your tongue once again resting against your palate. And you can use the rugae or those bumps behind your upper front teeth as a guide of where to have the tip of your tongue. And you're going to practice swallowing your food or swallowing whatever you're drinking by pressing the tip of your tongue against those bumps and then pushing the rest of the tongue against your palate and concentrate on just pushing up. So you're not pressing your tongue forward. You're not using your cheeks or your lips to help you move the food backwards. This is all happening through your tongue and the power of that muscle in your tongue pressing up. So once again, your lips stay sealed, they stay closed. Your teeth are lightly touching, so you don't want them clenching and you don't want them wide open because that makes it more difficult to press your tongue up. But when you've chewed up this food well and you're actually getting ready to swallow, your mouth is closed, lips are closed, teeth are just slightly apart, and then your tongue is pushing up against the palate and is really directing the food or drink backward. So you're swallowing with the power of your tongue alone. And you're going to focus on doing this at every meal. Once again, you should be chewing your food, and I've talked about this in another video, but really using your jaw muscles to chew up food 10 to 15 times before you attempt to swallow it. So you should be doing this exercise 10 to 15 times for every bite of food. And I know that sounds like a lot, but once you start making this a practice and a habit while you're eating, it will almost become second nature to the point where you don't overly have to think about it. But you have to consider that if you have not been intentionally eating and intentionally chewing, it's going to take some time to make this a habit. And it's also going to take some time to develop the muscular strength in your tongue where you do have a strong tongue and you are able to swallow with the power of your tongue versus other factors in and around your mouth helping out. And this upward positioning of the tongue is going to once again help to press against the upper jaw, against the palate, and rewire the bone structure and bone positioning of your face so that you get this training and this expansion happening naturally through the use of your tongue. So this is really eating with intention. So again, to break that down, when you eat or when you're chewing, you're going to have your lips sealed. You are going to chew food up until you're ready to swallow, and you should chew about 10 to 15 times. Once you get ready to swallow, just to have your teeth lightly touching, and then your tongue is going to press up against the roof of your mouth, and that food is ready to be swallowed. So you're going to use the power of your tongue pushing up and back to help you swallow. So just to recap here what the exercises are, our exercise number 1 was the tongue to palate hold. Exercise 2 were tongue push-ups. And exercise 3 was the chew and swallow technique for your tongue. So that's your tongue exercise trio. And really doing this consistently and building up the amount of time that you're able to do these exercises for, or ultimately with the chew and swallow technique, if you could make that a practice while eating, period, you're going to develop a stronger tongue and a habit of utilizing your tongue in the way that it was meant to be used. And it will take consistency. So you want to aim for doing these exercises for at least 6 weeks. And I would encourage you, if you get to 6 weeks practicing this, then push yourself to go to 12 weeks. And by 12 weeks of doing these exercises, eating this way, this will become a habit for you. So consistency in this case is a superpower for you. And I would also encourage eliminating mouth breathing. So one way to do this is through the practice of mouth taping, particularly at night when many people do tend to mouth breathe. And although I won't go into the details of that in this episode, there is a lot of information, and I've actually talked about it in another episode on how to mouth tape properly and what to expect in doing that. And that's basically just a retraining of how you breathe and enabling you to use nasal breathing or nose breathing over mouth breathing. And then overall, posture is something that takes into account more than just any one muscle. So try as much as possible to really focus on keeping your head up, keeping your neck extended, not forcing these things, but elongating your frame. So your head is up, shoulders are back, sort of in a neutral position. Many of us are hunched forward, and some people tend to hold their weight back. Try and keep your shoulders in a neutral position. And this will also enable your tongue to develop that strength a little bit more quickly when some of these other major muscles around the head and the neck are well positioned and more balanced. So although mainstream medicine and mainstream science say that you are a victim of your genes and there's no way around the way you look, or there's nothing that can be done to naturally change your facial structure, that is simply not the case. And these techniques are proven ways that you can actually remodel the jaw. And just a minor disclaimer here, the older you get, so into adulthood, any type of remodeling takes more time, it takes more work, and in some cases is less effective. That gives you better placement of the muscles, better placement of your cheeks, better lip positioning. Those are all great bonuses. But ultimately, this is about health. It's about being able to use the muscles in your body the way they were intended to be used and to breathe better. So now knowing that your tongue shapes how you breathe, it helps to shape your jaw over some of the ways I've talked about the importance of the tongue before. Improve your tongue, improve the way you breathe, improve your jaw health, jaw shape, and really start to focus a workout for your tongue, because this muscle is begging for that, just like any other muscle in your body that has not been intentionally crafted as far as muscular strength. So that's what we're going to do with these exercises. If this discussion was valuable for you today, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share this talk. Let's continue waking up to the truth about our health, our vitality, and our potential, because I believe you are meant to become superhuman. Thank you for joining me today.